Welcome to Beyond Referrals, the podcast exploring how trust, growth, and client relationships in financial services are evolving in the digital and AI age. I'm your host, Emily Armstrong. Let's dive in. Hey there, welcome back to the show. This is a fantastic conversation. I just got off my recording with Kristoff Hart, and I can easily tell you this was one of my favorite conversations I've had on this show. And I say that about a lot of my conversations, but this one was special. So Kristoff Hart is a multi-passionate entrepreneur with multiple different creative agencies spanning across entertainment, nonprofit, and high trust creative amongst a few of his niches. And you'll hear my bio reading of him in the show. He has an incredible bio. But today we talked all about high trust creative, and what that is how can service-based, high trust-based businesses like financial planning, wealth management, accounting, real estate, legal services like that. How can services, professionals, and brands like that really bridge the gap and attract and build trust digitally for digital natives coming up now and will be inheriting trillions of dollars? I had so many takeaways in this conversation. We talked about the difference between institutions and individuals, the decline of trust in institutions and the increase of trust in individuals, and how personal branding fits into that. We talked about how to bridge the old and the new. So how to continue to build your business in the way that you should keep building your business, like relationships, referrals, events, in person, that way, with how to build parasocial trust relationships. And we'll talk about the definition of that and get into all of that, how to do this well. And I just honestly left this conversation feeling so encouraged, not just for myself and my business, and inspired of to keep showing up, but encouraged for my clients and my listeners and the conversations with people that I'm having about this very issue. We are in such a unique and critical time right now of the people who see this opportunity and take it versus those that don't. And compliance is no longer an excuse. So this was fantastic. I'm sending this to every person that I'm speaking with right now because this is a conversation that you need to hear. So without further ado, please get excited for my conversation with Kristoff Hart with Bellhart Co. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond Referrals. I'm so glad you're here. This is going to be a fantastic conversation. I've been looking forward to it. Today's guest is Kristoff Hart. He came to me from somebody that you hopefully listened to his episode, Adam Swerdlow, and so excited to get into it with Kristoff today. So Kristoff is a creative executive, founder, and the CEO of Bellhart, a family of creative agencies serving entertainment, purpose-driven, and service brands nationwide. Throughout his career, he has led creative strategy and marketing for film and TV projects, reaching hundreds of millions of people globally. His work includes, like Adam, The Chosen, over 300 million viewers, and House of David. He helped launch The Wonder Project as well, which some of you may have heard of. It's a streaming service generating over 500,000 signups in the first 3 weeks. That's crazy. I would love to see those numbers in my business. He's developed campaigns for brands, including USAA, Parade, and Johnson Controls. Early in his career, he worked for the nonprofit sector and developed content and marketing strategy for brands including Sarah Cannon, Cancer Research Center, Warner Music Group, and executed campaigns for artists including Brad Paisley, T.I., and Bruno Mars. Okay, yes, King. He serves on the advisory board for Belmont University's Curb College of Entertainment and Music Business and is a member of the Television Academy. Today, we're talking about something that he calls high trust creative, and it's going to be such an important conversation about bridging the old and the new of how service businesses are built and why this matters for people, just like you listening. So, Kristoff, I'm so happy you're here. Welcome to Beyond Referrals.
So happy to be here. Seriously. It's weird because you get those bios written and then you have somebody relay to you the entirety of your life story. And you're just like, man, first of all, this is really weird and kind of arrogant. And then secondly, like, it's like, did I do all that? Like, it's like a weird kind of catch-22, but really grateful for you, Emily. So excited to get into this
Yeah.
conversation.
That is why I like to read the bios like on air for the person, because it's like it just reminds you of how like what you've accomplished, and you've accomplished some pretty amazing things. You know, I don't get bios with the name T.I. and Bruno Mars too often on my podcast. So I cannot wait to get into
That
this. So, go
is
ahead.
so. No, I was just saying that's so fun. Yeah, the music industry is a lot of fun, and we'll talk more about it, I'm sure.
Are you like, are you musical as an artist? I know you're obviously creative, but what about your musical interests?
It's a great question. I grew up kind of singing and performing. I was in musical theater in high school. It was a whole thing. And so I think that's kind of where some of the, charisma or kind of boisterous nature of who it is that I am comes out truly. It works really well in business, right? Because you're always ready to perform. You're always ready to at a moment's notice, just kind of be incredibly extemporaneous and communicate whatever at any given moment. But I definitely decided like in college was my line. I was like, I think I'm done with that portion of my life. Like I'll do it in different places and spaces. Like my family is very musical. My wife sings. My kids love to sing. So we'll do it within the confines of our home. But largely, business is really taken over the vast majority of my life. So
I think it's so funny that you're saying that. So I grew up dancing, but I think this is why we vibe, like hearing that. I'm like, oh, this is why I feel like I click with you, because you have such a good energy. And my 3-year-old has been obsessed with Frozen, and they have the best musical songs. And so I often will like do a full out musical theater performance. And I always
amazing.
joke with my husband, like I was like supposed to be a thespian, a musical theater kid, but here I am doing business as well. So
Yeah, I think it is really like the choir dance, theater kids that like ultimately end up ruling the world at the end of the day. Like I'm fully
absolutely.
convinced of it. What type of dance, just like as a little bit of a side note, what type of dance did you do? I'm just super curious.
Yeah. Okay. So I grew up in competitive dance. It was very intense. The studio that I went to, like bred professionals. Typically, they dropped out of high school to homeschool to go to LA and be professionals.
Amazing.
I did not get the gift of flexibility. That was like God's design in my life. So I worked my freaking butt off for
Yeah.
5 hours a day, ballet training 2.5 hours a day. I was never flexible, but I was a hip hop girly. Like I was so good at hip hop. It was so fun. But I just was like, you know what? I don't want to do this with my life. So I dropped out after tearing both hamstrings as a freshman in high school. Literally tore them both. And that was God's like way of my path going in a different direction. But my brother, who also grew up dancing, he went on to the professional path, and he danced with Beyonce, Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, like choreographed commercials for Coke.
This is
He's
nuts.
pretty ridiculous. Yeah.
That's so fun. Okay, so I did like as an aside to this, I did tap, jazz, ballet, and hip hop. There was a whole thing. My mother is the dancer, right? And that's kind of where
Okay.
that came from. She wanted to have a girl. She thought she was having a girl. They told her she was having a girl. She did not have a girl, and so she had planned my life already. And so I just kind of had to fall into line with a couple of these things. It was just like, oh, you're just gonna dance now. Like it is what it is. So I started dancing. Found that I had an affinity for it. I was way better at that than I was at basketball or like any of the other sports.
Love.
So we just did a whole lot of that growing up. And my mom was a dancer in New York, and she did the whole starving artist thing for a while, and like, did some amazing dance work with, oh my gosh, the name Debbie Allen. So like my mom was a true ballerina, did the whole thing, and kind of like I grafted off of her flexibility and dance prowess, and kind of created my own lane in musical theater, which was like a mixture of all of the loves. Like I could act, I could sing, I could dance, I could do all the things at the same time. But clearly there was like, God had very different plans. I got to college and I was just like, I think we're done here. Like, I think it's run its course.
It's a hard life. Like, I think it has an end date, and that's what I told my brother. He's 30 and he's at school. He's going to school at Yale right now because he's also a freaking brilliant person. But I was like, I think that's so great if you can make it work for a time. And then, yeah, you have the wisdom of like, okay, we're going to do something different. But man, that's so fun. I love learning that. Okay, after this podcast, we'll do a little part two of how can we keep those interests alive in us? Because
Yes.
it's fun.
I've thought about picking up a dance class or two.
Yeah.
I haven't done a dance class probably in a decade. So like
Same.
I've thought about like what does it look like to actually jump back in, but I know I'm garbage now. Like
No,
if
you got it.
your
It's
brother,
there.
no, it's not muscle memory. Not no, because the dances have changed. Like hip hop is way different than it used to be. Hip hop is not what it used to be. Hip hop is like it's way more expressive. It's energy. It's arms moving. It's the movements are quicker. My body cannot do what these younger dancers do now. So,
I mean, and me after 2 kids, not a chance.
gosh,
Not a chance. I hurt when I get out of bed.
I didn't have any of them, but I feel the exact same way. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Absolutely love learning all of that. That is so fun. So tell me then, how did you end up in this high trust creative space? Feel free to go into your story like as deep as you want, but I would like to understand like how you became an expert in this space specifically.
That's a great question.
And maybe could you, define what high trust creative is at the same time?
Absolutely. So High Trust Creative is a creative agency for high trust service businesses. And what we would call a high trust service business is any business that requires, as you could imagine, a high degree of trust from the customer in order to be able to facilitate that business. And so that would be your lawyers, your CPAs, your real estate agents, your commercial landscaping companies, your financial advisors, your wealth advisors. Like these are the people that you are giving your bank codes over to, you're giving your routing number, your account numbers, you're giving your livelihood over to them, and you're asking for them to steward. And so we work closely with these businesses to really help provide them with photo, video design, creative strategy, and brand consulting work, and social strategy work in order to really help them grow what it is that they're already doing. Because the thought process for us is this: we believe that as money changes hands generationally, right? We see a real opportunity for the brands, particularly the legacy brands, those who have been around for a long time, the accounting firms that have been doing this for 40 years. As that money changes hands from their grandparents and parents to the next generation, the millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha, the question is, will they continue to utilize your services? And what is drawing them toward those services beyond just referrals? So I think that reality is like, how do we help to really create an opportunity for these brands to breathe new life into them, to refresh that website that's been exactly the same since 2005, to bring video and a personal branding to the leaders, to the executives, to the advisors that, is obviously within the framework of what it is that you're allowed to do, but also gives you the ability to be able to express yourself and what it is that you do and show off your expertise. You have all of this knowledge about what it is that you've built over the course of the years. We just want to build you a brand that matches your expertise. And so that's really what it is that we strive to do at High Trust Creative. And ultimately how I got started in this, it's so weird. Back in college, among the other like entertainment things that I was doing, there was one summer where I was like, man, I'm looking for a job. And I was terrible at accounting. I'm going to go ahead and say that for all of my accountants out there. You are loved. I am grateful for you.
They're a specific type of personality for sure.
Yes.
You're a creative. You're not an accountant.
I'm not an accountant. And I say this to a lot of people, like I'm a creative at heart, not in head. So like I'm very operationally sound, but I'm not an accountant. Like I made a D in accounting in college. It was really terrible. But in college, I took business finance and I made an A in business finance. So my brain does kind of work a little bit like that. And after the semester was over, we were going into the summer. I was trying to stay in town and trying to find different odd jobs I could do. And I had a couple of internships lined up of opportunities I could do. I was working part-time at O'Charlie's. So that was fun. But then the other job that I did multiple days a week was my business finance professor hooked me up with this woman by the name of Charlotte Goldston, who became a mentor and a dear friend. And she was a wealth advisor and a wealth manager at UBS. And so this was really my like foray into understanding this world and kind of living within compliance and what does it mean to design things. And, I love UBS as a company, got the opportunity to work with them so closely and learn so much about their business and their business model. But the thing that I saw there is the same thing I see in so many other places. It's an established, trustworthy legacy brand that people love, but does it speak to not just the next generation, but to the now generation? Does it speak to people in a way in which they can understand it? Is the brand codified in a way publicly that helps people to say, I trust that because they've used colors that I enjoy. I trust that brand because they have content that breaks down the barrier to entry, right? Like, for those of us who were in the, kind of in that like wealth building phase of our lives and careers, we're looking for those people. We're looking for those service brands right now to say, hey, who are the people that we should be going to? Who are the CPAs? Who are the financial advisors? Like, even right this moment, I'm like, I need a bookkeeper. Like, I'm bringing these things into my business. Who are the people that we can go to, that we can trust? And to be honest with you, when I go to their front page on their website, when I go to their social media, I'm looking to see like, hey, has this ever been updated? Like, what do you do? Who are your people? Like, how do I establish this first parasocial relationship with you as a brand in order for me to feel comfortable enough to say, hey, I'm willing to give you access to my life? So,
oh my gosh, there's so many questions I want to ask and like things I want to emphasize in that. Let's start here. So I also completely agree with what you're saying. From your perspective, like this older generation, of professionals and clients and consumers. So it's like boomers or maybe some older Gen Xers even. They were used to a world that looked a certain way, where trust was built, versus today and in the future, which is being accelerated, every year that goes by, it looks different. So from your perspective, both from the professional side, so like a service business trying to gain trust and get clients, and consumers, tell me like those differences that you see.
Yeah. So here's what I'd say holistically. Let's take a 30,000 foot view, just kind of zoom out for just a second. Gallup every year does a poll where it and they've been doing it since the 80s, but it's a poll where they talk about what the trust levels are, particularly in certain institutions, right? And so they start with government, and they go to religion, and they go to politics, and
Ooh, all the spicy ones.
all the spicy ones, but they basically like they track what the public level of trust is in each level of institution. And what we've seen holistically over the years is that public trust in institution has gone down significantly since the 1980s. So what you're already dealing with is a generation, whether that be, boomers, millennials, whatever, we're all in the mix of the generation, the age living right now. What that leaves is an age of people who are deeply distrusting of institution. Why? Because we've seen failure, we've seen impropriety, we've seen mismanagement over the years. And so there is a lack of trust in institution holistically that we see happening with consumers today. And so when we find ourselves in this place where we're already playing on the back foot, like we're already fighting from a behind position, that means that we have to do what we can to increase trust within the public. And one of the ways that we've seen that is actually through though institutions have lost trust, individuals have gained trust, right? So it's actually individual people, one-to-one relationships, even if those one-to-one relationships are digital, that have gained trust, thus leading to the rise of the influencer. The influencer, there's some stat out there that basically says like over 60% of like current audience decisions are made because of influencers. And so I think that is such a real reality where you say, hey, it's the influencers who are now driving purchasing decisions. It's the influencers that are driving people to the point of interest and the point of decision making ultimately. And so the question is, for an older generation that might say to themselves, hey, why do we need to change at all? What I'm not asking you to do, and what we're not asking you to do, is to be an influencer necessarily. We're not asking you to have to get in front of a camera all the time. But what we are asking you to do is to say, hey, can you speak directly to the pain points and the needs of your audience, the people that you're trying to reach? Can you speak to them? And if you can, if you're able to do that in person, right? If you're a financial advisor, a wealth manager, like you got to have some level of charisma to bring in that level of business. So we know how to talk. The question is, can you get in front of a camera and do it? And if you can get in front of a camera and do it, then that one-to-one conversation goes further, and you begin to build a parasocial relationship with the audience that basically allows them to be able to say, yeah, it eliminates the barriers, and they're willing to say, I will go to the point of decision way quicker because I trust the person that led me there. So that's ultimately what I would say is like a real thing here is that, like, I think for a generation of leader that might say, hey, this is not how it was. And I didn't have to do this stuff to bring in business. I want to encourage them to say, hey, I'm not asking you to get online and do dances. I don't think that's going to be beneficial at all.
You and I'll do that.
For sure. We'll do the dances for the camera and all that. That's not what we're asking you to do. What we're asking you to do is display your heart, right? Tell a little bit about who you are and show your expertise so that people can say, you know what, that's a person worthy of being trusted with my life, with my finances, with my situations, with my future. And I'm going to do that because they've established a relationship with me before I ever walked through the door, before I ever picked up the phone, before I ever, shot off an email. I was able to establish a parasocial relationship with them digitally that allowed me the comfort to be able to say, I trust them with my future.
Okay, that's so good. Can you define a parasocial relationship?
Yes. So, and I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. So when I was at The Chosen, I think one of the greater examples of this right now in this season is, I think Dallas is just a great example of what it means to establish a parasocial relationship. For those of you that don't know, Dallas Jenkins is the writer, creator, director of the series The Chosen, which is one of the most watched television series in history. It's a series about the life of Jesus, but you can find it on Prime Video. It's a really, truly amazing series. But one of the things that Dallas did so well is that he established a relationship through the screen, like established a relationship through his phone, through all of those things with all of these different types of people by basically inviting them into the process of, basically inviting them into the process of what it looks like to invest in the thing that he was passionate about. Right. And so this parasocial bond or relationship is a relationship where someone on the other end of you feels like a strong sense of friendship or intimacy with a public figure that they haven't actually met. Right. And so it's establishing and building a relationship with people before you've ever actually encountered them or it's a one-way relationship essentially that you have. Well, close to you, people feel like you're a friend. That's how people feel about Dallas. They feel like he's a friend. They feel like he's a community leader. They feel like he's a voice that he can trust. And so when Dallas says move, people move as a result because they're deeply bought into the person, not only to the thing that Dallas has built, but the person that Dallas is. So they're involved, they're deeply involved in his life. They care about his family. When he brings his wife on, they care about that. When he talks about his kids, they care about that. It is the thing that has been one of the real driving forces for the Chosen brand is this parasocial relationship that Dallas has created with the audience. And so I think it's important for, these high trust service professionals to create that parasocial relationship where you've built this bond and connection with people before they ever step through the door. And I think we've seen really great examples of that in the business realm, whether that be your Gary Vaynerchuk's or your Cody Sanchez's, like there's been so many really good examples of people who have built that parasocial relationship to where now they're selling out, concert halls and stadiums full of people trying to teach them how to do business off of the strength of some social clips that led them to be able to say, I'm going to go purchase a $400 ticket plus VIP to get 5 minutes of time with Gary Vaynerchuk after the conference. Like that's a huge thing that has all been crafted and created off of a parasocial relationship.
Yeah. I'm thinking of the people in my world who I feel that bond with, and they've actually really helped me in my life and inspired me. And okay, that's great to define it. So what would you say to the person listening? So just to give you a little bit of context before this, Kristoff, I work I'm mainly in financial services. I do work out a little bit outside of that, like legal and real estate as well, but mainly financial services. And within that, mainly with clients in these extra restricted compliance heavy environments.
Yes.
So unlike the independent RIAs who kind of have more of an open architecture to use what technology they want, use what social platforms they want, start a podcast, start a YouTube. I'm working with clients who do not have that. They are restricted in terms of what technology they can use. They cannot start email lists. They cannot start podcasts or YouTube channels. For example, like maybe they can only do LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. So like for the person who's listening in an environment like that where they feel restricted and every time they try to do something unique, they get an email from compliance. But who is listening and who's agreeing with what we're saying and saying, yeah, I get this. I see that this is the future, but all those things, right? But like, how do I do this? I'm just thinking of that's like mainly who I am helping right now. What would you say to that person who knows that this is true, but doesn't like this is so opposite than the world that they've been trained up in?
Yeah, compliance is a real thing, and you should be in compliance for sure as you're doing your work in your job. What I'd tell you is this: use what you have, like whatever it is you have, whatever it is you have, whatever it is you have access to. Use what you have. If LinkedIn is the profile that you can be a part of, there has been significant growth in the LinkedIn influencer. Like the LinkedIn creator economy is busting right now at the seams, bursting at the seams because there's so many people that are hopping in with their professional expertise and communicating the value of the work that they do. And I think take your cues from your parent organization, like take your cues from the people who are holding you to that compliance and say, hey, what is it that they're posting? How can I take that and build upon it? How can I take it and use my expertise to be able to say, yes, this is absolutely correct. I endorse what it is that my company has said. And let me also add that this is another thing to consider that maybe they didn't have the bandwidth to be able to consider in the 240 characters they had to say it. And so it gives you an opportunity to be able to expound upon what has already been said and what has already been showed to be in compliance with your company. You being able to communicate the truth of the truth of your knowledge and your expertise in conjunction with what you know to be compliant is your best bet. And so being able to say, well, hey, what has the company already posted? Great. Is there an opportunity for me to then create a video if that's within compliance and say, hey, I want to echo the sentiments of what has been said by my company already and throw in an additive in there that I also know is compliant, right? That is going to be helpful to the end user and ultimately help the consumer say, hey, this is a trusted voice that I should be listening to. And so I think, for those that have those high restrictions and barriers on you, here's the thing: your company's done the work for you. Most likely, in some ways, they've already created, so to speak, your content calendar. And so every time they post something, that gives you the ability to jump on it and then communicate your perspective of said thing. And so that's what I would encourage anyone that works in those spaces where there's high regulatory practices and high compliance, that yes, you should be in compliance, but that doesn't mean that you can't be effective within compliance. You can communicate the value of what it is that you bring to the table while adhering to the guidelines that the company has already set forth.
I love that. That's what I say too. I'm like, okay, we can't start an email list, but dang, you get access to LinkedIn. I don't care if compliance says, no, you can't start a long form newsletter. Like start the long form newsletter on LinkedIn if you want, because it's like, and as long as you are in your content being compliant, like you should feel like in integrity with that. And you have to take what tools you have. And I think it almost creates like this weird opportunity where you don't have to get so overwhelmed with like the ecosystem and what you can do. You can just double down on what you can do. And I think advisors that I'm working with in the environments I'm working in don't realize the opportunity and that there actually is a lot that they can do. So I love that answer.
I'd say this to you as well, just as like a very simple kind of additive piece. As you're thinking about this, like, and as you're thinking about like what it looks like, the barrier to entry has never been lower for content creation. So like this is an exciting opportunity for advisors who say, well, I'm just not built that way and I don't know how to do this type of thing. Like, trust me, this is the easiest environment for you to get in the game right now, because you can get a good and solid camera for less than, $2,000 ultimately at this point. And, you can hire a company like ours or anyone else to be able to say, hey, we'll cut some clips for you. Like the outsourced opportunity is there. All you need is a great camera and great content, and you're the win here. Like what
Yeah.
you've built
You're the
as a leader,
product.
you're the product. And
Yeah.
as a leader, like you want to be able to share your expertise and communicate what it is that you can do to the audience to the best of your ability and in the sleekest way. And so you want people to be able to look at it and say, whoa, this something about this is uniquely different. And I'll say this to you, Emily, and to your audience, like that is what I've seen in the work that I've done holistically is that when we go in and we start to craft this content for these brands, they go, oh, I didn't even know we could do that. Like I didn't even know our content could look like that. And what they end up seeing is that when they start putting it out in the world, people, they start getting text messages and phone calls and emails, and people go, hey, like, saw this thing. This looks great. And then for us, it's really good because they go, who did it? And we go, it's us. But then for
Exactly.
them, they go, hey, like, this is really interesting. Or I didn't know you did all of this. Or I didn't know these were even within your capabilities, you know? And so it's great to be able to craft this content in a way that allows you to be able to communicate the fullness and the breadth of what it is that you and your organization do.
Yeah. So I want to go back to something you had just said earlier, like the barrier to entry being the lowest. And 100% agree with that. The only thing that would stop someone right now from kind of like pursuing this path that we're talking about is themselves and their own fear and their excuses of like, I don't have time or I don't want to learn a new skill. But honestly, like everything else is available. So what is your prediction or even what you've seen from the professionals who start taking steps and leaning into this now versus those that don't? Like where, there's a path that
Yes.
you're on, but then over time, like it gets very, very obvious who's on that path, who's not. Talk to me about that. Like, yeah, where people end up.
Yeah, let me talk about the older generation for just a second because I value the expertise and the wisdom of leaders that have come before us so much.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know, I've got mentors that are in their 70s and 80s that have led me to this place right now, and so I so value the older generation, and I never ever want to communicate something in a way that communicates, hey, that we don't value the contributions you've made and the way in which you did business that got us all to be where we are today. So that's
Yeah.
incredibly important for me to say. What I will say is for these kids that are coming in, these Gen Zers, these younger millennials that are walking through the door right now of your businesses, they are digital natives. This is the world they live in. And so they are already walking into the business with the knowledge of how can I integrate my digital nativehood into the work that I'm doing. That is their first and primary thought. I'm seeing 20 something real estate agents blow some of the older real estate agents out of the water right now because older, perhaps the older generation of real estate agent is still taking, kind of taking these manual photos of the houses and trying to get it sold through referrals and networks. Whereas these kids have made these crazy drone videos of, they've hired some drone pilot to come through the house and swoop all through, and there's flashes and there's effects and it's keeping attention, and their friends are looking at it, and when they're ready to buy their first house they go, hey, I'm going to call my friend that I know that creates this great content because it gave me a glimpse of the house that I wouldn't be able to see before. I got to see a full, kind of perspective of what it looks like, and I got to learn from this person in the process of, how much money I should be thinking about putting down and on a particular house, and what earnest money actually looks like, and how prepared I should be to be able to purchase my first home. And because this younger real estate agent has been giving me that education this entire time, they've built trust with me over time. So when I'm ready to pull the plug, I know exactly who to go to. And it's the first thing that's in my mind when I say, okay, I'm ready to buy a house. I go, I remember that really cool video that guy created, and therefore they're getting the business. And so I think in older generation, you guys have the expertise. You have the leadership, you have the tricks of the trade, you know how to do the thing. What if you brought some of that to the table on social? Imagine how impactful you could be. And so as we look at the kind of two pathways, as we see it, we see these leaders, these high earners, these high level leaders that have been doing this for a really long time, but may not necessarily recognize the opportunity in digital and in branding and therefore are missing all of the groups of people that are looking for your services, but they're not looking where they used to look. They're not driving up and down the street looking for a CPA. They're not flipping through the yellow pages trying to find a CPA. They're Googling the best CPA in town, in X town, in Nashville, in Denver, in, Colorado, in LA, in New York, in Texas. Who's the best CPA in the area? And then they're trying to figure out, they're not only utilizing Google as a search engine, of course, but they're utilizing social media as a search engine. So they're typing
less and less are actually going to Google. It's crazy.
Of course. So it's like, hey, I kid you not, this is a real thing. Whether I'm looking at restaurant recommendations or I'm looking for actual like businesses that I want to be a part of or partner with, I'm looking like, hey, best business for this. And TikTok will surface the best businesses. The question is, will you be there? Will you be there when they do the search? And so I think that's kind of the pathway for a lot of leaders today, is we're seeing younger leaders jump into the space already knowledgeable of how to leverage digital and technology for their benefit and how to integrate it into the work that they're doing. And we're seeing an older generation particularly struggle with the idea of having to do these things. And again, as money changes hands generationally, as we go through this generational wealth transfer, it's going to be incredibly important for these legacy brands that have been around for some time to start to think about how to reach the children and the grandchildren of, these clients that you've had for a long time, who might say, hey, I'm going to go take my talents, my resources, my money over to the folks over here because they understand how it is that I'm making money, right? Because you had an oil tycoon you've been managing their finances for 20 years, for 30 years. You've been doing all of their work for 30 years, and their son doesn't want to go into the oil business. Their son's an influencer. So their son gets paid in a completely different way. And they're looking for you to understand how it is that they get paid and how it is that they make money in this digital economy. And they're looking for somebody who can relate to them and speak their language in a particular way. Now, listen, the principles haven't changed, and you can speak to that reality as a leader and as an older generation leader. But the reality is they're looking for someone to say, what do I do? I've amassed this wealth doing a completely different thing than my dad or my mom did. How can you help me to steward this? And do you even understand my world enough to do so?
This is such an amazing conversation, and I'm thinking of like faces are coming to my head of who I'm going to send this to, because conversations that I'm having right now, it's like we are in this shift. We are in this transition. A lot of people feel this, and it's really hard for them to know how to move forward. Like, I'm thinking of, I could count it on two hands, like the conversations I've had with leaders in these really high trust institutions, but who are really struggling with this. They're struggling with the people they're recruiting into the business. The retention is lower than it's ever been. And there's still, like, I think compliance is such a barrier because there's like this, well, things have always been done this way and we need to stay compliant because we're a multi-billion dollar enterprise and we need to stay safe and compliant. But it's almost like to a detriment of like, we're not going to integrate any of these digital strategies. And it's not because they don't think it's important, but it's because they don't know how to do it. And like that is actively happening right now.
Yes.
And, I've done a lot of research on this, and it's just like, you have to look at the world and what was normal 10, 15, 20 years ago. It was completely different. We didn't have technology constantly influencing us and knowing us so well that it only puts like algorithmically data-driven, hyper-relevant things in front of us. So for the past 10 years, we've been conditioned. This is like humans in general, consumers, adults. We've been conditioned to see this hyper specificity. Our Netflix queues look different.
That's right.
Our Spotify's look different. And if we come across an outdated website that has no presence, that has no voice, that's generic, like something I say is a blank profile sends a blank signal.
Yes. It doesn't even read.
Not at all. Like, it's like 2 seconds above your head and you've lost the opportunity.
That's right.
And no matter how strong of a referral you get, no matter how many times you call that person, you're not getting the business.
That's right.
And so I am actively, I am like something I'm doing, and I love this conversation and appreciate it because it is such a, like, it is now we're navigating the old way and the new way. And how do we do that? Like, because I still believe that high trust businesses are built by relationship. Like no amount of AI spam can build your pipeline. No amount of Instagram reels can like bring clients in the door. Like you do have to build the relationships and get the referrals and do the work and do the activity, but you need this to convert, right? And you need this to attract. And so I just really appreciate this conversation.
Yeah, I think there's such a reality to that. And I think if they haven't heard us say it, you just said it, but I want to even double down on it. Like we believe in relationships. We believe in high trust businesses. We believe in qualified professionals doing the work, right? So what I'm not asking for is like, yes, some, AI slop pipeline that's been crafted and created for you to kind of bring in new people, like, unqualified clients. What I'm not asking for you is to stop taking the dinners and stop doing the meetings and stop doing the things that's going to bring clients to the door in a natural way. You should continue to do that. What I am saying to you is that in a digital age, and especially in an increasingly automated age, right, an artificial age, it's incredibly important that you get in the game, because I'm telling you, there is an AI app for everything now. AI legal, AI finance, AI wealth management, that you can plug all your numbers and all your information in, and they will tell you, you should think about this stock and you should think about this opportunity and all these things. And whether those things are going to be helpful for them in the long term or whether they're all stealing our data, we don't know. I do not try. I think AI is an incredible tool and has been incredibly helpful in some of the things that we do in our business and some of the administrative tasks for sure. But let me tell you this. When I'm looking for an accountant, I am not going to AI. If I'm looking for a financial advisor, I'm not going to AI to find that. I am looking for someone who I can trust, someone that can be honest with me, someone who has the personality that matches and has an understanding of the world that I live and exist in. And that can be you too. But you got to know that your front door has changed. They're not going to walk through your physical front door anymore, if you even have that. But they're not going to walk through your physical front door anymore. They're looking at your digital front door first. And that's going to be the first place in which they say, hey, is this even something worth looking at? Does this even do they even have the things that I need? Whereas all of these AI startup brands have great branding and great call to actions and amazing ads that they're running. And they're, moving and shaking in and out of compliancy as much as they want to. And yet they are doing everything they can to bring in new customers and take opportunity away from qualified individuals like you. And so I want to encourage, that the leader that might be on the fence of jumping into this thing is like, there's an opportunity for you. There's a space for you. And it's better that you lead out than you allow the computers to do so.
Okay, this is a good segue into kind of like the last question I want to end with would be, so what does this look like? Like, so let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, Kristoff, Emily, period. Yes. Okay, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this. What do I need to think about? Can you kind of walk through like some tactical tips or next steps for, and of course, shameless plug, like work with Kristoff, work with someone, to help you navigate this. But I want to end there. Like, where should people start?
Yes, you all are incredibly busy. Like your audience, Emily, is incredibly busy. They're doing everything they can to bring in new business as well as sustain, their lives and sustain the teams that they've brought on board over time, and to grow and to create success and wealth opportunities for them and future generations. So I want to start by acknowledging that reality. With that said, knowing that you are busy, it is okay to outsource this. And that is frankly our business model. So from a practical perspective, don't feel like, number one, don't feel like you have to do it all yourself. Let me start by saying that. So if you're listening to this conversation and you're saying, I'm really overwhelmed by the idea of having to get on camera every day and put something, put my nice clothes on and all that good stuff. I mean, first of all, most of you are still working in person in buildings. And so you're already dressed up, let's be honest, but you're thinking to yourself like, man, I have to get on camera every day and deliver to camera the value proposition for my organization. How do I do that? first and foremost, you don't have to do it alone. And so you can
Mhm.
work with teams like ours that help you to be able to think through the content, that sit down with you and hear from you about where your expertise lies. And then we help you to develop scripts and think about that concept, and then you deliver that to camera, send that information over to us, and we craft it. There's also a thing, I mean, we travel as well, so I have this conversation with people all the time. Is like, you can hire a team. We fly out. We do this with clients everywhere. We'll go out. We'll fly out. We'll go and grab content with them. We'll sit with them for a day or for 2 days, and we'll grab 3 months worth of content.
It's
And
genius. And then
so
don't think about it. Yeah.
and then don't think about it. And so for that, I'd say number one, you don't have to do it alone. Number two, batch record and edit. Like if you are choosing to do it alone and you feel like you've got the bandwidth, let me encourage you, make sure you're recording multiple things at one time. Where it feels unmanageable is when you're like, man, I have to do this every day. Instead of you saying, hey, twice a month, I'm going to record 2 weeks worth of content, or once a month, I'm going to record 2 months worth of content, right? Like that's how you should be thinking about, is practically, how can I get the best bang for my buck in this time that I have? So if I have an hour, how many concepts can I get out? Because again, we are in a very short attention span world. And so people don't have that much time, which means, hey, it should take you 60 seconds to pump out a 60-second video, right? Like, for you to communicate succinctly what it is that you want to communicate, you should be able to do so in 60 seconds. And so do that, and then have that cut and clipped into 60 seconds, and then move on. Do not waste your time on trying to put together a 5-minute video for social media. Nobody will watch it.
No,
So
sir.
I think that's incredibly important as well. So don't feel like you have to do this all alone. Definitely batch record and edit. Do as much as you can in the time that you have. And then lastly, what I'd say is that another practical way to really think about all of this, is, what are you doing in your day-to-day life that you already find interesting? Turn that into content.
Mm.
Turn
Say
that
more
into
about that.
Yeah. So whatever it is that you're doing in your day-to-day life, whether you're, hey, I wake up in the morning every day and I, begin to check my email. So it could be as simple as, here's what the life in the day of a legal professional looks like. People care about those types of things. There are young lawyers who are looking to you right now, trying to get that information from you. Here's what my life looks like, that a day in the life of a financial advisor. There are young advisors who are trying to figure out what it is that they do with their time and their day, and you get to be that blueprint for them. But also, right, as you are sharing about your life and your day, you can also infuse into that the work and the expertise that you have, right? So you get to be able to say, well, hey, here's what I do. Here's a day in the life of a financial advisor, and we do this, and we work on these, we have these meetings, we talk to these level of clients, and the thing that we particularly specialize is this and this. And now all of a sudden, you've been able to communicate the value proposition of you and your organization while talking about what you do in a normal day, which only further seeks to humanize you as well. So it brings your personality there, it creates a relationship with the audience, and you get to communicate your value. And so whatever it is you're doing on a regular basis, infuse that into the content that you create. So if you play golf, if golf is where you get your referrals and your meetings and you're doing those things, man, show off your golf swing on camera. And then while you're at the golf course, man, have somebody with you, pull a camera out real quick and just say, hey, I want to give you a couple of tips. I'm out here on the greens with some clients right now. I want to give you a couple of tips on some ways that you can save money this year. Like,
Yeah.
those things are
Done.
easy to do. You're done. I mean, like, you've got a video right there. So it's including it into your already existing life. I know you might feel like this is an add-on to all the things that you have to do. But in fact, what I would encourage you with is that it can just be naturally included into your already existing workflow. And that can be the content. You do not have to dance in front of the camera. The things that you already do are interesting enough to the right clientele. It's just a matter of being able to grab the content and then showcase what it is that you do to that potential clientele.
Well, you're inspiring me for sure, personally.
Good.
How long? Okay, this is the last question, then we'll do lightning round. How
Sure.
long does it take for someone to start seeing this strategy like really kick in? What's your experience with that?
Yeah, what I'd say is, like, there I try to give everything a quarter. Like, honestly, I think if you 3 months feels like
Minimum.
minimum, right? It feels like the right time to start to see the growth. Why? Because if you haven't been posting at all, you're starting from scratch. So you're feeding your new content into an algorithm that has already, existed and already decided and determined for so many people what it is that you want to watch. You're a new entry into an already existing game. And so for you, it's going to take time for that content for you to build that reputation, for the algorithm to even begin to notice, okay, look at their consistency. Let me start to recommend and feed their content into the feeds of other people. I think it just takes about 3 months for you to be able to do that. Also, in that point in time, that's when you're doing discovery, right? That's really where you're discovering what your voice is in the digital space, how it is that you communicate, what has been more effective. That's when we can look at, all right, we did, for 3 months, we did X number of videos and graphics and all those things. We got some new headshots. We put this content out. What's resonating? What does the engagement look like on each video? What does the likes, the shares, the comments? Shares is an incredible metric. So who's sharing it, and then where is it being shared to? Comments. Are people engaging, asking questions? Are you getting DMs as a result of that on LinkedIn? Is it actually helping to increase your pipeline? Those are the things that we're going to look at as kind of metrics and examples within those first 3 months to really see which piece of content is resonating the most. And then we double down, right?
Yeah.
The moment that you see that content works, you go, oh, that's going to be a great opportunity. That's a great space for us to be able to continue to run in for a period of time. And we know, because the algorithm is constantly changing, that won't work forever. So many people start with content and then they get stuck in a format, and then they realize that format's not working the way that it used to 6 months ago. It's because the algorithm's changed. So for you,
true.
We have to look consistently and say, when you're putting out that content, hey, you had this piece of content of you on the golf course, and that content performed really well. And so you might think, all right, let's go and do more content on the golf course. And that is the right perspective. Let's do more lifestyle content like that in order to be able to drive people to the point of interest, decision, or purchase for your business. But we might also want to say, hey, where is there a secondary piece of content that we also see working? Okay, then how can we create different series based off of those things? How can we get episodic in the way in which we think about this, where you're doing episodes of a thing, right? Like that. So it's not just you doing a one-off thing at the golf course. Now you have a whole series or line of content that is on the golf course, right? Where you're talking to people about the financial advice that you can give, or what financial advising even is as a concept. You're talking to people about why it's important to have a lawyer, why it's important to have, a tax professional on your side. So that would be my encouragement. Like, you've probably got about a 3-month window in which you really need to ramp up to start to see those things work. But I think after 3 months, what you have is a great benchmark and some data on what content works the best. And let me say this last thing. Virality is not the goal. Virality is not the goal. We love our Gary Vaynerchuks. We love our Cody Sanchez's. We love our Grant Cardones. Like, we love our Alex Emojis. That's not you. It could be
1%.
Yeah. It could be you, but most likely it's not you. And so please, please, please do not seek virality from your content. The goal is, do you hit your intended audience? Are you reaching the people, the mom in town whose husband just passed away and he had a great life insurance plan attached to that? And so she's been bequeathed $2 to $3 million, and she's just trying to figure out how to steward that money well for her family and her children. That's who you have to hit. Right? And getting that specific and knowing that. Who is your target audience? Who is the demo that you're trying to reach? Who is that mom that just got left that inheritance? Who's that kid whose grandfather just passed away and he's now been gifted an inheritance way larger than he knows what to do with, and he's looking for opportunity? Who's that young entrepreneur who's the first in his family to go to college, and he just hit it big, and he's got his first, that big opportunity where he's making $400K, $500K a year. He's got stock options and he has no idea what to do with any of that. Like, This is who you need to know who your core audience is. And then the goal of your content should be to hit that audience. Look amongst your clientele at present moment. See where your strengths are, and then do what you can to create content to hit that audience in particular. But do not seek to go viral, because that's not guaranteed to you. That's not guaranteed to any of us, no matter how long we've been doing this. What matters is, are you hitting the people that you're trying to hit? And if not, then let's talk about what strategy looks like in order to get there.
Wow. I have nothing more to say. That was so good. Period.
Hey, we're trying.
Love it. I love that distinction that you made. The goal is not virality. The goal is making your ideal client, your niche, the person you've decided to serve, feel seen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Kristoff, let's do some lightning round. Are you down?
I'm totally down. Let's make it happen.
Okay. What is some entrepreneurship advice that you do not subscribe to?
My goodness. What is some entrepreneur advice that I do not subscribe to? Stick to one thing.
You and I. There we go again. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Tell me more. Are you multi-passionate?
I'm multi-passionate. I am multi-passionate.
Yeah, me too.
Multifaceted. Like, the whole stick to one thing, narrative never really worked for me. And in fact, where I've seen the most success in my life and career is me not sticking to one thing. We talked about some of the jobs and opportunities that I've had in the past. Through those jobs and opportunities, I've always been stretched. I've always been the guy to call. Look, and you can say what you want to say, but I'm the Swiss Army knife. Like, Emily, you're the Swiss Army knife. The phrase that's been used and weaponized against generalists for a very long time is the phrase, jack of all trades, master of none. But the end of that phrase gets left off, which is often better than a master of one. Jack of all trades, master of none is often better than a master of one. And so there is a beauty in generalism. There's a beauty in being able to do a multitude of things, because you're an asset to the team and you can pivot quickly. And so that's the entrepreneurial advice that I do not subscribe to, that I need to niche down and stay with one path. Because frankly, if I would have done that, I wouldn't have the success that I've seen in my career today.
Yeah, I struggle with that too. Like, I force myself to be really, really niche down in my business, because I'm like, I need to stay focused here. With my limited resources, this is what I'm doing. But you take every other area of my life, I'm like, should I open a cafe? Should I write a book about this? And it's like, it's hard sometimes to know how to balance being a very multifaceted, multi-passionate person. But your bio clearly, speaks
let me encourage you, Emily, too. You don't have to, even in the business side, again, I have high trust creative because I care about serving high trust service professionals in this way. And I want them to feel cared for. But as you said, I have a family of agencies. I have another agency that focuses specifically on purpose-driven organizations, nonprofits, mission-driven for-profit organizations, right? And helping them with their creative. And because I have a history in entertainment, I have an agency that's focusing on entertainment. So I've niched down, in a way, because I have these business units that serve a very particular group of people. And I have people and a team that work on each team that have served in those industries. But I get to be across all of it. So I've never gotten the opportunity. You don't have to. You don't have to niche down. If there's an opportunity, if you're in your mind, or actually for my consulting practice, there are actually groups of people that I really want to help. Great. Then just start a line of your business that focuses on that particular brand. And now you're niched down in that area.
Exactly.
But still across all of these multiple things, if that makes any sense. So.
Yeah, I love that. What is one tool you cannot live without?
Whoa! All right, I'm gonna say this. This is free promo for them, and maybe they'll get back to me on a sponsorship.
Yeah, let's go.
100%. So Howie.
Tell me more.
Howie AI. Howie is one of the greatest tools that is in my tech stack. I've got a pretty large tech stack, all things considered. But Howie AI is a AI scheduling tool that schedules all of my meetings. I add Howie in, on copy on my emails, and Howie will schedule my meetings. The vast majority of people think Howie is real. I guess I kind of exposed that today. But Howie is not real. I don't try to lead people to believe that Howie is real, but it's an AI that basically schedules all of my meetings, can handle complex scheduling when I'm trying to put different meetings together. It's one of the greatest tools. It has scheduled hundreds of meetings for me expertly and perfectly, and it just works. And it
Yeah.
allows me to not focus. I've got a project coordinator that helps me to really organize my life and my businesses, but like I don't have to burden her with scheduling, right? She can
It's a
actually
lot.
focus
Yeah.
on
Hmm.
the work that needs to get done. I'm taking meetings every day. Emily, this is my fifth meeting. This is going to be one of five meetings today. Like I'm constantly taking meetings. The beautiful thing is I don't have to schedule all of those, and I can kind of offload that task to AI. So this is where I say AI comes into play in a very helpful way, is those administrative tasks that once would have just like eaten up the bandwidth of a personal assistant or eaten up the bandwidth of a coordinator on your team can now be outsourced to AI in a way that's incredibly beneficial. And they're SOC 2 compliant, which is incredibly important. Feel free to do your research on that. And so that compliancy is great for this digital age. And you want to see that SOC 2 compliancy across your AI tools, because that means that your data
Yeah.
is going to be protected. And so again, all of this is incredibly important in this AI driven age, but utilize the tools that are going to give you time back in your schedule. Because the amount of time I'm scheduling with new clients, current clients, and all those things, Howie can schedule all of that reality. And they even have it to where he's on text. And so I can text him back and forth and go, hey,
And he
Howie,
never takes a lunch break.
100%. I can, hey,
Yeah.
Howie, here's Emily's email. I need to schedule a meeting for her within the next 3 weeks. You have access to all of my calendar, show my availability. It's amazing.
Okay. Well, we're definitely going to reach out to Howie for some sponsorships.
Yes.
And I'm
Well,
definitely
it's an
looking
incredible
into
tool.
that. That's
Incredible
awesome.
tool.
I love it's so nice like having these AI tools just taking it. It's like I'm grateful for it every day of just the capacity it gives me back. And I could not do what I'm doing without it, period. Could not do
Yes.
it.
For these entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, and folks that are just kind of running in the consulting and agency space, like we need that to when we've got, low, we've got margins and to take care of and people to pay and all of those things. It's like, man, my project coordinator is actually grateful for the fact that her bandwidth is not eaten up by constantly living inside of my inbox. So
What does life look like for you when you're not building Bellhart or your other agencies? Tell me about the family and what life is like.
yeah, I've got a wife and three kids. I love them deeply. We live in the Nashville area and we just love to do experiential things. Like I am an experience guy. I value experiences with my family above all else. And so we love to travel. That's a big thing of ours that we just enjoy seeing new places. We love, doing the boring things. We love going to the zoo. We love bowling. We love like all of the cool, family fun things. I'm always just trying to figure out like what can we do today that gives my kids an experience that they will never forget. Because those are the moments like this is the age. I've got kids, that are under 6, and this is the age where like they're forming core memories and like really these are things that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives. And in fact, I've said this, and this might sound a little morbid, so forgive me for just a second. But one of the things that I've always said is that this season of my life, when I'm in my 30s and I'm raising this family, is the season of life that, God forbid I were to ever find myself in a situation where my memory starts to go, because I love my mind and I want to be able to maintain it for the rest of my life. But God forbid I ever find myself in a situation where my memory starts to slip. These will be the years I look back to.
Mm,
These will be the years I
yeah.
slip into. And so what a beautiful time, to be able to cultivate this life that I want to live with my family where they're prioritized and where I get the opportunity to create experiences and moments for them that they'll never forget and that hopefully I'll never forget, even if my memory starts to fade.
That's so beautiful. I'm in a similar stage of family, and it sounds like you're just creating a magical childhood for your kids. And like the other day, I had this thought. I was like, it is such a high honor to steward someone's childhood.
Yes.
Like that's the most tender, precious time of a person's life. And like, it makes me happy to hear how you're going about that, how your family is doing that. It's beautiful. Good job. You're a good dad.
Listen, that's very kind. I've had plenty of years where I wasn't. And so, that's an encouragement to anybody listening. Like, I'll tell you this last thing. I was working a very high powered job as a VP at a fast moving, startup, independent film and television studio. We did some incredible work. That team is still doing incredible work to this day. I left that job for my family.
Yes.
I left that job because, again, not to be too emotional about it, but there's a couple of moments actually. There's a movie called Jay Kelly
I
with
saw that with George Clooney.
George Clooney,
Yeah.
I wept like a baby and quit my job because of that movie, because it really spoke to me about what was most important in my life. And I didn't really resonate too much with George Clooney's character, but actually more so Adam Sandler's character, which was like
Yeah.
he was just constantly a victim of his
Right.
success, like a victim of the work that he was doing, which was like he wanted to be in the right places at the right time, but just could never be. And I just resonated with that so deeply. And there was a moment even a couple of months ago where I've told this story, not publicly, but I guess it'll be the first time I've ever shared it. But there was a moment a couple of months ago where my wife was looking through some photos on her phone. She was showing me a photo and she was like, "Oh my gosh, do you remember this? Like, this was such a sweet time." And I couldn't remember it. I just didn't have any memory of the photo or the moment. I was there in my mind and my heart went. And that was a gut check for me. And I'll be honest with you, this is not the most manly thing in the world to do, but like I just kind of boo-hooed and cried. My wife had to hold me. Like I'm not gonna lie. And that was the first kind of like pillar to drop for me to say, hey, I've really got to start thinking about how to prioritize my family in a way that honors them and honors the commitment that I made to them. And so in everything that I do, I'm still ambitious. I love to do great work. And I love to serve people in the best ways and help people's businesses and lives grow. But man, if all of that comes at the cost of my family, it is all for naught. Truly.
I really respect you for that. I think anytime I see people doing that, making those choices, like I just have nothing but cheer. And yeah, like I interviewed a guy a couple weeks ago. He helps. He's an executive coach named Corey Carlson, and his whole message is win at home first. And he's like, I've had 18 bosses. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're living or dead. I've had one family, and they will remember me. So it just puts it into perspective. So I love that you made that jump, and that's so inspiring. Okay, last question. Who is someone else that I should have on the show?
Ooh.
That's how I came to you, Kristoff, because I asked Adam this question.
Right, so I wish I was prepared for this. Okay. Who is someone else you should have on this show? My goodness. Brad Lomenick.
Say more.
Brad Lomenick is the rainmaker, the guru, the convener, the gathering of all leaders. He is one of the most well-connected men I've ever had the pleasure of meeting and encountering. And the way in which he builds relationships with people is incredible. And he does does such amazing work. I'll let him get into the details of what it is that he has done before. But Brad Lomenick is a leader of leaders, and he exists in the shadows. And so I'm doing what I can to say, let's, he's got a book and stuff. He's not.
Yeah.
The world's best leaders and like has
Pretty
relationships
badass.
and just, I mean, it's incredible. Right. So that's a guy that I think you need to reach out to and have on the show, because Brad Lomenick is a leader of leaders and is well connected and a wealth of knowledge. And he can tell you what it looks like to win big, and he can tell you what it looks like to fail and everything in between. He's just a great leader.
Amazing. Well, Kristoff, I was really excited for this conversation. I knew it was going to be amazing just from our brief meeting of each other, but this really exceeded my expectations. I'm sending this to everybody I know that I'm working with. And where can people go to connect with you and bellhart?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you want to connect specifically for this audience, hightrustcreative.com. So it's very simple. Hightrustcreative.com is exactly how you think it's spelled. It's spelled that way. And you can find out more information about us. We've got a LinkedIn account as well that you can go to. And if you want to keep up with anything I'm doing, at Kristoff Hart, KristoffHart. That's me. And we do some great work. Would love to connect with you guys and share any information or wisdom that I can. in order to help you and your businesses grow. And if you want to talk about balance, because all the gurus and the billionaires hate the word balance, but if you ever want to talk about balance, I'm here to do that as well. What it looks like to really balance and prioritize your family in the midst of all that. We can have that conversation too. So hit me up.
That's like a whole nother podcast episode that we should do together.
Oh my gosh. We should do it. Like this is this is weird, but I was doing a Beehive like newsletter for a while, and I've got this one Beehive newsletter piece that I wrote that basically says balance is a billionaire's punching bag. And so I just feel free to like take a look at that. But like I go really deep into the concept of like everyone hates the word balance, but perhaps it's actually the thing that we need. They keep trying to tell you that you shouldn't have it. But perhaps it's actually the thing that we need the most in our lives. So,
okay. Well, that's going to be another podcast episode.
Let's do it.
Because I agree. Well, Kristoff, this was so great. Thank you so much. I will link everything that you mentioned in the show notes as well. But I really appreciate your time, and I'm glad to be connected.
So appreciate your time, Emily. Thanks again. And thanks to everyone that's listening for taking the time.
Yeah. Thanks, Kristoff. Hey, thanks so much for listening to the show. If this conversation resonated with you or you learned something new, make sure you follow the podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes. And do me a favor, like and subscribe and share this episode with a friend. Comment on anything that you want to see or hear more of in the future as well. You can also stay connected by subscribing to the Wonder Weekly newsletter and connect with me, Emily, on LinkedIn at Emily Armstrong or Instagram, Emily Armstrong 2.0 for more insights on building modern client service firms. Until next time, keep on adapting, modernizing, and growing beyond referrals.